DreAllDay.com.
You're now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself. It's going to make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And we put all this together into one bundle, one package, one mindset, one method, one philosophy, one book, one show, one daily masterclass called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how to be self-contained. Now, this topic is going to go hand in hand with what we just talked about yesterday, since we were talking digital marketing and putting yourself out there, and the three strategies that you need to use in combination to get yourself and your name and your work and whatever game you want to give to the world out there. This will go hand in hand with that, and tomorrow's episode actually will as well. So we got a quick little 3-pack here, maybe it'll be more. But first, let's get a definition of self-contained so you know where I'm coming from with this. First of all, the definition for a thing to be self-contained means complete or having all that is needed in itself. Now, self-contained as a person means quiet and independent, not depending on or influenced by others. Now, before I go further into this, let me tell you that I have a text line where I want you to text me and tell me the best insight or golden nugget or what are you going to do differently based on what you hear in today's episode. My number is 305-384-6894. Again, 305-384-6894. So what we're talking here today, this is for the person listening to me now who you want to do your own thing when it comes to your career or your business. You want to build your own business, or you want to freelance, or you want to be an entrepreneur. You want to make your money doing the things that you want to do. Call the shots with what you want to do. Have the power, and you want to make the decisions. That's what it means to be self-contained, as opposed to, if I was to give a couple, and I'm going to go into this as we get into our points, but a couple of examples here would be, for example, if you are making, let's say you're making videos and you're posting them to the YouTubes and the Instagrams and the TikToks, you are somewhat self-contained, but not 100%, because any one of those platforms can kick you off any given time. Remember, the definition is complete or having all that is needed in itself. So YouTube itself is self-contained, but if you're posting to them, they can kick you off any given day. So you're not as self-contained as you may feel like you are, even though you may be making money on it. Now, let's say you were to get your own web server and have your own bandwidth and database and all that, and put all your videos on your website that you own, and everybody comes straight to your website to get your stuff. That is being self-contained, because nobody can kick you off. And then you can make your money directly from the consumer. You can sell direct to consumer. That would be more being self-contained. Self-contained, another example would be, let's just say, and this one would be a more direct example that maybe you have seen. A musical artist who is signed to a record label, they are making their money. Maybe they're making a ton of money and they're doing great and they're enjoying everything that they're doing. Are they 100% self-contained? No, they're not, because being signed to that label gets a cut of every dollar that they make. So if you made $1 million, the label might have made $2 million, or they might have made $1 million themselves, or they made something off of what you did, because they are helping you do what you do. They're helping you press your albums up. They're helping you with distribution. They're helping you with marketing. They're helping you with promotion. They're helping you with studio time and connecting you with producers. They're helping you master your songs. They're helping you do all of these things. So you're not self-contained, because that organization, being a record label, they are providing some of the infrastructure for you. Again, I used this example not too long ago. We were talking about basketball players. And I mentioned LeBron in yesterday's episode as a raw example. Let's just say LeBron James, since everybody knows who he is. When he goes and plays for the Lakers, is he self-contained? No, because the NBA and the LA Lakers are organizations within themselves. All he has to do is show up and work there. All the infrastructure around it, the arena, the concession stands, the cheerleaders, the uniforms, selling the tickets, the TV deals, all of that stuff is put together by those entities. All he has to do is show up and play the game. And I'm not saying that not being self-contained is necessarily a bad thing. So I want everyone to be clear. I'm not saying that I'm not drawing a contrast between good and bad, right and wrong. What I'm doing here is explaining to you what it means to be self-contained, so you understand what goes into it, and there are pros and cons to each. So understand that neither one of these is necessarily better than the other. And for some people, it works to be in a self-contained space, and some people, it works to be in a space where you are connected, you are plugged in to a machine, so to speak. Like the NBA is a machine. The LA Lakers are a machine. Signing to Sony Records or signing to Interscope is a machine, and they provide a lot of the infrastructure so that you don't have to provide it yourself. All you got to do is show up and just do your thing, i.e. play basketball or sing your songs. Everything else is taken care of. They get a cut because they're taking care of a lot of things for you, and then you get your cut based on what you're doing. Another example will be in the publishing industry, writing books. I've been on both sides, the self-contained side, which many in the writing industry call it self-publishing, or the traditional side. I've done both. When you're on the traditional side, they provide a lot of the infrastructure for you, i.e. you want your book to be in the bookstores, they do it for you. You want somebody to design the cover of your book, they handle that and they pay those people. You want interior designing of your book, they handle that and they pay those people. The editing for your book, you don't have to go hire an editor, they have editors, and they have very good editors, by the way. All of these things are handled on their end, and because they're handling so much, they get a cut of your money. Every time that book sells, they get a cut, the bookstore gets a cut, the designer gets a cut, the editors get a cut, everybody gets a cut, and then you get whatever is left, depending on what your contract is. All depends on the contract. But that's the opposite of being self-contained. Now, when you're self-contained, let's take a book like The Mirror of Motivation, was published by Work on Your Game Incorporated. When that book is made and sold, it goes straight to Work on Your Game Incorporated. There's no one else taking the cut first, except maybe, let's just say Amazon, if you buy it on Amazon. If you buy it from us at mirrorofmotivation.com, nobody's taking the cut. Why? Because we did all the work. All the editing, we handle. All the design, we handle. All the interior, we handle. The packaging, the distribution, the marketing, the promotion, the sales, the web pages. We handled all of that, and therefore we are self-contained. Everything that needs to happen for that book to get marketed, bought, sold, and sent out, and for you to read it, we handle every single piece of it. Therefore, look at the definition of self-contained. Complete or having all that is needed within itself. We did that, and because we're self-contained, we fit this definition. So let's get into our points so you understand a little bit better what it means to be self-contained and how you would actually do it. And what we're going to talk about in tomorrow's episode, because today I'm going to talk about how to be self-contained. What are the things that need to be in place for you to be in that self-contained space, and you'll understand the pros and cons. And tomorrow, I'm going to talk about the responsibilities that come with it, because again, it is not a walk in the park, it is not a picnic, and it is not for everybody. So I want to make sure I'm laying out all sides of it so you understand what you're getting into when you make the decisions that you're making in your career and in your business, or maybe decisions that you've already made, so you understand what choices you've made and what the ramifications of those choices are. All right, all that being said, point number one, topic once again is how to be self-contained. First thing you must do to be self-contained, people, is you must build on your own land. Build on your own land. As much as you can, look to eliminate the middleman. Who's the middleman? Facebook and Google are middlemen. All the properties that Facebook and Google own. Instagram is owned by Facebook. YouTube is owned by Google. YouTube is owned by Google. All right, these are middlemen. All right, if your business is based on posting on Instagram or Facebook ads or your YouTube channel, those middlemen have control over your business. They can wrap their hands around the neck of your business and choke you out. They can put the foot on the throat of your business and end your business that fast. They can just turn the faucet off and it's over. I know of people. There's a friend of mine who told me that she had a friend whose whole business was based on posting on Instagram. And they had this Instagram account with like 30,000 followers. It might have been 300,000. I don't remember. One of those numbers started with a 3. And for whatever reason, Instagram just deleted their account because they said you violated some policy, deleted that person's account. And this person, a grown adult woman, was in tears crying because her whole business was based on that Instagram account, and then the Instagram account got deleted, so she was going to have to start the whole thing all over again. This is what happens when your business is based on control by a middleman. And I'm not saying that this is necessarily bad, but this is something that you need to keep in mind. This is something that I talked about in the episode on what the social media platforms don't want you to know. This is episode 1690, a dirty secret social media platforms don't want you to know. If you haven't listened to that episode, please go back and listen to it so that you understand the game that you're in. When the middleman is in control of your business, and if your business is on a platform that you don't own, they are in control. All right, the owner is the one in control, in case anybody didn't know. The person who puts up the money is the person in control. If you signed up for a Facebook account or a Google account or a YouTube or a TikTok account or Instagram profile, how much money did you pay to create that profile? Zero. Most of us create those programs, quote unquote, for free, right? Those profiles for free. All right, they're not actually free. Now, you know who paid? Google and Facebook paid. They paid for the bandwidth for you to create your account. And because they put the money up, they are in control. And if you think they're not in control, go ahead and violate one of their policies and you'll find out very quickly who actually is in control. I'm not saying it is bad to use these platforms. I use them myself. But understand that they are the decision makers on land that they own. Any of you who grew up with parents or anything like mine, you question your parents when you were at home growing up, they would say, all right, do you pay bills here? All right, who pays the bills in this house? All right, do you pay rent here? All right, do you put the food in the refrigerator? If the answer was no, then guess what? You ain't got no say in how things are going to go, right? When you're not the one putting the money up, you don't call any shots. And again, you might feel like you are free to do whatever you want because your whole business is through your phone and through your TikToks and through your DMs. But go ahead and violate, or go ahead and let them get mad at you, or go ahead and let them just decide to delete you for any reason or no reason at all. And you will find out very quickly that the middleman was in control the entire time and it was not you. So if you want to be self-contained, you must build on your own land. Now, the question you may be asking is, okay, well, how can I do that while still leveraging these platforms? And let me tell you how that is done, because that's what I do. I have an Instagram, I have a YouTube, I have a Facebook, I have thousands of people following me on all of these platforms. But my aim is always to bring people from those platforms into platforms that I own. Platforms that I own, when I tell you, send me a text, I will then have direct communication with you. Me and you can just communicate directly. We don't need to go through anybody's third-party platform. If I tell you to go to my workonmygame.com, get on my email list for free, and it is for free, now I have your email. I know who you are. You know who I am. We can communicate with each other directly. Even if the email platform that I'm using goes away, I still have your email address. I could just create my own email platform. We can go direct. That is direct to consumer communication. In order to be building on your own land, here's a simple thing you need to keep in mind. You need a way to directly communicate with your audience if need be. Meaning, let me break it down to even more simple terms. You need permission from your audience to communicate with them directly, and you need a way to communicate with them directly. And a way to communicate with people directly, as far as we know today, as I'm recording this in the summer of 2021, is an email address, phone number. That's it. Email address, phone number, and hopefully a name too, so you know who you're talking to. If you have someone's name, email address, phone number, at least one of the three, actually, name, phone number, name we can leave out. Let's just say phone number, email address. You can directly communicate with someone and permission from them to actually do it. Now, don't just get somebody's phone number and start marketing to them. They don't even know who you are. As long as they gave you permission, you can market to them. Now, when you think about it, you look at your YouTube channel, your Facebook, your Instagram, your TikTok, none of those people who are following you on those platforms have to tell you their phone number or their email address to follow you. But guess what? Guess who does have their phone number and email address? The owners of TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook. They have the phone numbers and email addresses. They're the owners. That's why they're in charge. Okay? So this is why any of you who know anything about marketing, when people talk about building a list, what is a list? A list is how many email addresses and phone numbers do you have. That's what it is. Not how many followers you got. How many email addresses and phone numbers do you have of people who have given you permission to reach out to them through email or phone? So this is what you need. To be self-contained, you need that list. All right, you know how many people Facebook has on his list? 1 billion. Facebook has 1 billion people on his list. That's why Facebook is worth so much money. YouTube is worth what they're worth. TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat. You know why they're worth what they're worth? Because the size of their list, not because of how popular they are in terms of, how many app downloads they got or any of those things. It's because of the size of the list. If you want to build your self-containment, you must have a list. If you don't have a list, the middleman has their foot on your throat. They haven't pressed down on it yet, but they could whenever they decide to. Keep that in mind as you build your business. All right. This grants you power when you have a list, but it also comes with many responsibilities, and we're going to get to those. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is how to be self-contained in your business. Number 2, you must minimize your need for approval. This one is not only do I mean this literally, but this is also a metaphorical thing and also a mindset thing. when it comes to being self-contained. So literally, I mean, for example, you don't need someone to give you a yes. So you don't need 3 or 4 signatures on a document in order for you to take action. That's one way to minimize your need for approval. And the other one is metaphorical. As I said, you don't need everyone to agree with you in order for you to do what you want to do. Being self-contained is a mentality. It is not just something that you have on paper or some document. Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is the book that I credit most for putting me into an entrepreneurial state of mind. I once heard him say that you can't have power in your life if you're asking permission all the time. Self-contained people don't need to ask permission to do what they want to do. And needing other people's approval is a form of needing permission. Even if you're not asking explicitly, is a form of needing permission when you want someone else's approval before you take action. It is one route towards being self-contained, to not need that approval. But towards this end is entrepreneurship, not needing other people's approval. Because entrepreneurs are people who just decide, you know what, I'm going to do things the way that I want to do them. I'm disagreeing with the way that things are already established, because if you completely agree, you would just go join some entity that already existed. But because you disagree on some level, you decide you're going to start your own thing and you're going to create your own entity. That is exactly what entrepreneurship is. You're immediately the boss, you immediately make your own schedule, and you immediately get to call all the shots. Now here's a disclaimer to that. You still must have the discipline to do your work and create some routines and consistency from which to produce results, because that's the only thing that anyone will pay for anyway. Right? So even if you start your own thing and you're the boss, you still got to produce consistent results, because who's going to pay for inconsistency? Who's going to pay for things that they can't predict? Who's going to pay for something that they don't know what they're going to get? Nobody is. So just because you're the boss doesn't mean everything's going to work out. So being self-contained, again, comes with some responsibilities. Again, as I said, we're going to dive into that more tomorrow. Let's move on to point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is how to be self-contained. Number 3, identify and either develop or acquire access to every skill necessary for handling everything in-house. Now, this is one of the keys here for self-containment, because you can't be self-contained if you, and when I say you, I mean your entity, whatever it is that you create, if you can't handle everything in-house, then you can't really be self-contained, because then there's a bottleneck that you need to go through someone else in order to get things done. For example, if I was a basketball trainer, and for my basketball training business, I used some gym in the neighborhood for my training sessions. But I decided one day, you know what, I don't want to use the gym anymore, because I listened to Dre's episode on being self-contained. I want to be self-contained. I don't want to use this local gym anymore. I'm going to open my own gym. Now, if I'm going to open my own gym, one thing that I must do is I got to make sure all the same resources that I had at that other gym, I got to make sure I have them in my gym, because all of my clients, the people who've been coming into that gym before as my clients, they're expecting the same level of service. They're expecting the same deliverables. They're expecting the same comforts that they had before. So when I open my own gym, I got to make sure my gym has air conditioning. I got to figure out who's going to clean the floors every morning. I got to make sure that we have clean showers and a locker room for people to change clothes in. I got to make sure we have weight training equipment. We need cardio machines. We got to make sure we get our safety and health inspections and all our certificates. Who's going to handle sanitation? Who's going to do maintenance there? I got to have all of these things in place. Who's going to wash the uniforms and the jerseys after every day in training? Who's going to make sure the lights get turned on? Who's going to run the business side of things? I'm not doing it at that other gym anymore. I'm going to do it here. I got to make sure everything in this facility is run the right way, because I'm in charge of it now. Being self-contained comes with a ton of responsibilities. And again, as I said earlier, everyone, this ain't for everybody. Not everybody needs to do this. Some people, you want to plug into the machine that already exists. All right, there are pros and cons with that, and there are pros and cons with the self-containment. It's a lot more responsibility, and someone must take on that responsibility, someone who's in-house. Let's take another example. Musical artists. Let's say you're signed to a record label, you're signed to Def Jam, you're signed to Sony, and you're doing your thing, but you don't like how much money you're making. You don't like that the label is taking too long to put your new single out. You don't like one of the executives there, they're hating on you and they're not signing off on the things that you want to do. You just don't like the way things are going. You don't like that you got to wait for 4 other artists that are signed to the label to come out with their album before you can come out with your album, and you're ready to put your album out now, but you got to wait 6 months. You don't like that, so you decide you want to leave that contract and you're going to become an independent musical artist. Now you're self-contained. Now you can do whatever the hell you want, whenever the hell you want. That's great. Now, here are all the things you got to do that the label used to do for you, but now you got to do for yourself. Every time you put an album out, who's going to package it up and actually send out the CDs and the records and the promotional material so that everybody actually knows that your album is coming out? Who's going to hire the photographers to do the photo shoots for your promotion and for your album covers? Who's going to do that? Somebody got to do it now. What about the distribution? Your album is out, but how are you going to make sure that it gets posted to Spotify and Apple and SoundCloud and YouTube and all the other platforms and Google Play and everywhere else that you can get your money? Someone has to be responsible for that, and they got to make sure that the streams are getting tracked and make sure they're getting paid properly based on how much you're supposed to be making. Someone has to be in charge of that. Who's going to do the marketing? Who's going to make sure that all the radio stations know about your album that just came out? How is anybody going to know about these things if you don't have anybody in-house who's handling it? What about promotion? You know, when a musical artist's album comes out, it used to be back in the day they would go do and appear on all the radio stations, maybe even do promo shows. These days, artists still do that. Musical artists still do that stuff. They might do it more digitally now based on the pandemic stuff, but they still show up and go on radio shows and go on podcasts and promote their stuff. You got to get who's going to be in charge of your promotion team to make sure that your name stays top of mind in the media. Who's going to help you land those interview appearances and help you get on the popular shows or YouTube channels or make sure that your Instagram is popping off the way that it's supposed to be? Who's in charge of these? Someone has to do each one of these jobs when you're self-contained. If you're an author, as I said earlier, who's going to make sure that the cover designs for your books are done right? Who's going to make sure your books get distributed where they need to be distributed? Who's going to handle all the printing and shipping of your books? The marketing for your books to make sure people know that you actually have a book so you can sell it. When you are self-contained, every job on the job is your job. Let me repeat that phrase. When you are self-contained, every job on the job is your job. Not necessarily you personally having to do all of it, but you need to be responsible for whoever is responsible for doing it. Everything comes back to you. And as I said earlier, this is not a walk in the park, but it can be very, very beneficial for you if you take it seriously and you develop the skill set with which to handle all the responsibilities that come with it. And again, as I said, tomorrow we're going to get more into the details on what responsibilities come with being self-contained in your business. But these are the things, this is the framework for what needs to be in place for you to even call yourself being self-contained. As we recap today's class, the definition of self-contained: of a thing, to be complete or having all that is needed in itself, self-contained of a person, quiet and independent, not needing or influenced by others, not depending or influenced by others, This is for the person who wants to do their own thing, call the shots, have the power, and make decisions. Point number one, you got to build on your own land, meaning eliminate the middleman. Facebook and Google and all the properties they own, such as Instagram, YouTube, those are middlemen. All right, not bad to use them, but they are the decision makers on that land. Point number two, minimize your need for approval. This is literal, needing a yes or a signature to take action, and metaphorical, needing people to agree with you to do what you want to do. You cannot have power in life if you are asking permission. Robert Kiyosaki said that. You're immediately the boss when you become self-contained, but you still must have the discipline to create consistent results, because that's the only thing anybody will pay for. Number three, identify and either develop or acquire access to every skill necessary for handling everything in-house. If I'm a basketball trainer and I open my own facility, who's handling the air conditioning, cleaning my floors, the showers in the locker room, the weight training equipment? Who does the cardio machines? I need safety and health inspections. I need a maintenance team. If I'm a musical artist, who's going to handle the packaging, distribution, marketing, promotions, media appearances? If I decide to become a self-published author, who's going to design my covers, distribute my books, printing and shipping, the marketing? When you're self-contained, every job on the job is your job. This is not a walk in the park, but it can be beneficial if you take it seriously. Tomorrow, I'm going to tell you the responsibilities that come with, in detail, being self-contained. Work. Oh yeah, send me a text. Tell me the best thing you got from today's episode. My number 305-384-6894. Again, 305-384-6894. Work on your game. Dre all day.